We are talking about the new science of death. Is death the end, or it's just a transition process to another dimension? And this is based on some of the fascinating research that has happened in the past few years. And I'm sure all of us, we are going to learn something. And not just that, that learning will change perception about our life and death. Let's move on. The question which comes here, are we immortal? Still, we have not found anything clear, but now some of the evidences, they suggest probably yes, death is not the end of everything. It's probably the start point of another dimension where we continue living. How I'm saying this? You need to go through the entire session, be there, and I'm going to give you evidences which have been found out in the last 50-60 years through research, which is so compelling that mainstream science has to take it up. And accordingly, a new domain of science, the science of consciousness, has emerged, and very fascinating research is happening in that dimension. Understand this, because this is related to every one of us. All of us, we are scared of death. We are so much affected when somebody dies. It's going to change the way we approach our life. Maybe our priorities would change once this field of science gets to its maturity. This says, do you continue to live in some other form even after death? And that's been the basis of religion, basis of many of the philosophies, and today science is trying to delve into that field and trying to find out. Division of Perceptual Studies in the University of Virginia in USA, past life memory, where Division of Perceptual Study is doing something fascinating. They have done more than 50 years of research in this space, finding some of the compelling stories which science cannot deny. Established in 1967 by Ian Stevenson, and Stevenson was motivated by an Indian case. This story was probably the most elaborate, documented, researched case of reincarnation. Story of Shanti Devi. And in 1935, at the age of 9, this girl, Shanti Devi, claimed that she had lived a life before as Lugdi Devi in Mathura. She was at that time in Delhi. The claim was such that at that time a commission was set up. Members of that commission, they went to check the veracity of this claim, and what they found was absolutely unbelievable. This 9-year-old girl could guide them to the earlier residence of hers. And she said, I died during the birth of my child, my son. And imagine the 9-year-old girl is saying, I have a son and I died when that son was born. They went to the place. They found actually the mother of that child was dead, and that child was 11 years older than this girl, and she identified husband and others. This story actually compelled so much of attraction internationally that many of the scientists, psychologists of that time, they flew to India to check, because normally West is very, very skeptic about this, and it's a healthy thing to be. So they started investigating into this. Ian Stevenson was one of them. He came, interviewed this girl, and he was so much moved by the evidences suggested by this lady and other documentation. He said, I need to investigate more into this field of reincarnation. With 50 years of research, in 2017, there was a conference by Division of Perceptual Studies of University of Virginia, where many scientists, researchers, they gathered there. They presented thousands of cases where people have shared their experience of past life. Many are there. One of the most recent ones, 1998, this boy, he was born in the US, and suddenly he started talking about his past life, saying that I am someone who is a pilot, I am now fighting a war, and then he cried that I am dying, help me, save me, help me, save me. Imagine at the age of 2. And he then drew certain pictures which are very compelling for the parents. They were scared. What is happening to this child? They then contacted many of the psychologists, psychotherapists, and at that point in time, this gentleman, Jim Tucker, head of DOPS at that time, he came to research the entire thing. What is happening? This boy could narrate the details of the war scene, where the plane crashed, Who was the co-pilot? What was his earlier family? And then they went to that place to identify, did something similar happen? Exactly the thing had happened. All these things could be verified. They went to the previous birth gentleman. The name of this gentleman was James Houston. James Houston was the pilot who died. They went to the family, and astonishingly, almost all the details were matching. And this is not the only one that DOPS has unearthed. There are more than 2,500 closed cases, meaning they had gone to the past life evidence collection and found that the evidence are so compelling, so matching, you just cannot ignore. Now moving further, one more aspect, one more evidence of consciousness beyond physicality is this. A book by the name of Proof of Heaven by Dr. Ibn Alexander. He was a neurosurgeon. He was declared dead, brain dead. Nobody thought that he would come back to life. He came back to life with some unusual experience, and that experience had mysticism because the doctors and scientists, they could not explain how this could be a possibility. Because Ibn Alexander, when his brain was completely dead and after he came back to life, he narrated incidents happening in that hall, in that surgery room. He also narrated experiences beyond the surgery room. What his wife was doing, what his child was doing, what others were doing, where were they, what was the conversation, and it could be checked because some of them were recorded also. How this could be a possibility still could not be explained, and this was not one case. Now, as it is said, about 5% of the US cases are claiming near-death experiences, which are having consistency, which are having some of the elements which are very difficult to explain through scientific logic. But definitely they have some truth because they are giving some evidence which cannot be refuted by any logic. There are many. Another Indian origin lady in Anita Murjani, who had cancer, almost on the verge of death, almost like she was declared dead and there was no chance of survival for her. She had a near-death experience, and inexplicably there was a spontaneous remission of her cancer. After that near-death experience, unusually her cancer completely vanished. And this evidence, this record is there. So there are evidences, and it's worldwide. It's not limited to any geography or any religion or any belief system. It's happening all across the globe. Near-death experiences cases. Now, hard science. Dr. Sam Parnia is a heart surgeon, and now he's looking into existence of consciousness, existence of intelligence beyond death. And he has written these fascinating books. He's not a believer. He's somebody who is a hardcore materialistic scientist. He's a doctor who is a surgeon, and he's checking people who are dying and again they are reviving. What is happening in the intervening period to the consciousness? Are they existing? If they are existing, where this consciousness is parked? What is happening to it? Is it something that is there and we are not knowing it? And these two books and many of his research papers are creating ripples in the scientific community, because he's saying certain cases people are dying and they are coming back to life after 6 to 7 hours of time. What is happening to consciousness? Because brain dead, nothing you can sense in the body. What is happening to them? And he has recorded hundreds and thousands of cases, especially those cases where heart stroke has happened, people died, and by some mysterious manner they have come back. And what they're saying is consistent. They're sharing some unusual powers, like they're saying what happened at a distant place. So what is this? What is this happening in our life? He has documented them and put them into scientific journals. We will explore more into this field. Are there processes through which probably we can have a peek into this? What is happening actually beyond the body, beyond the mind?